the Homestead Studios in Santa Clarita, California, it's just the Tip-Sters with Melissa Morgan.
Full body spills.
If you've got a tip for Melissa, what your florist told you about that strange order she got, that name that suddenly occurred to you, how to not feel guilty laughing at your dog eating peanut butter, anything, tell us about it by calling the Tipster hotline at 832-TIPSTER. That's 832-847-7837, or send an email to jttipsters@gmail.com. You just might hear your tip on the podcast. And now here's your host, still trying to figure out why anyone would disrespect corncob holders shaped like little corncob men, Melissa Morgan.
More cowbell. Excuse me, Producer Mark, but they are known as the Corn Dudes.
The Corn Dudes.
They're known as the Corn Dudes.
I see. I didn't know that.
They're corncob holders with little eyes and little faces.
Yes. Well, they look like little corn cobs.
Yes, they're the Corn Dudes. What's the part you're not getting? Oh,
I mean, they're funny, and they're kind of funny.
I may have purchased them from the Aldi Isle of Shame, and they are my new boyfriends.
That's what I mean. You're just having a lot of trouble understanding why anybody would make fun of them.
Well, yes, especially when you find out that they're two little prongs. You put them, they have little areas, you put them into each other so they store easily, so that when you put your hand in your drawer, you don't pull back a bloody stump.
That is good design.
It's an amazing design. Yes. The Corn Dudes I cannot recommend high enough.
Yes, and you're holding you're holding the eyeballs and nose of a little corncob face while you're eating your corncob.
That really doesn't dawn on me as I'm eating my corncob.
Okay.
I enjoy my Corn Dudes.
So that's your summer purchasing tip for those of people eating the corn cobs for summertime barbecues and stuff.
I know there's a few tipsters who are also on the Aldi Isle of Shame Facebook page because I see their names come up.
Oh, okay.
So there's a few people out there who know my love of the Corn Dude is completely legit.
All right.
Too legit to quit eating corn.
Well, I like eating corn too, but I just pick it up with my bare hands and just munch on it.
That's because you're, kind of a animalistic dude.
Yeah, and then the little corn kernels come spewing out of my mouth and just all over the table and on the floor.
That's where I come in to clean it up. It's like I have a toddler.
Well,
if I could have our breakfast nook area, which is where we typically eat most of our meals, have a little tray, a little pop-on tray on those. Our chairs don't have arms. I love our chairs. But if I could have a little pop-on tray for Producer Mark.
All right.
My life would be infinitely better.
And could you get me a cute little bib with race cars on it?
I think you just explained full body spills. So here's me explaining what I said in the intro, which is full body spills. And it applies to both Producer Mark and I in two different ways. Producer Mark cannot eat without most of the food ending up on his clothing, as our dry cleaner can attest.
Well, that's true.
At one point, I assumed he took his ties that I purchased carefully for him to match with his shirts to wear to work and just wiped his mouth with them. I just assumed that's what he did. In fact, our
Wait, I'm not supposed to do that?
No. Our previous dry cleaner, Ed, said, does your husband's clothing need to taste the food first? Which is pretty accurate, I think. And
was he Transylvanian?
Every accent I do sounds like a vampire. I get it. He was from Egypt, so that was my Egyptian voice.
All right.
But yeah, and full body spills for yours truly is that I'm a klutz and fall down a lot. So we were having new flooring installed in the upstairs on the second floor last week, and I had a IKEA bag filled with sheets and towels I was going to fold, and we had a little teeny, very short, kind of a barrier baby gate up for Siren so that she wasn't in Dan and Dylan's way as they were trying to put the flooring in. And yours truly thought she could step over it, and she just missed it and instead went crashing on top of the baby gate. I ended up like a starfish, flat on my face, laundry went flying, landed on my knee and my hip. That I thought I really fucked up bad, but it only took like a week and I'm fine. I thought, well, I'm old and this is going to take a long time to heal. And the next day, my knee was so swollen, it was probably twice the size of my left knee. It was huge. And
it swelled up. Wait, what's the word?
It did swole.
It swelled up.
No, it swole.
It swole pretty substantially.
It swolled, yeah. And I hobbled around for a couple days, but I'll be damned. I am grateful for the powers of suggestion or healing or whatever, because I'm pretty good now. I'm pretty good. So, full body spills, which, by the way, it's a terrible takeoff on another podcast that says full body chills. So,
okay.
You didn't even know that, did you?
I didn't.
You did not, because you don't listen to other podcasts.
I don't, because we are the only podcast.
We are the only one.
That's right.
Or the 1.7 million other podcasts that exist.
But we're the only one I care about.
Well, thank goodness, because if you cared about other ones, you would be so busy, because it's a lot for you to care about this one, because I am a handful. I think we can all agree that I am a handful, and producer Mark is a wonderful wrangler.
You are a delight.
Right. Yeah, I'm a delight.
Well, listen, anybody who's married out there will know that it's hard to live with anybody, okay? I am a large pain in the ass to work with. I mean, I spill corn all over the floor for one thing.
Full body spills.
That's right. So it's, we make a good partnership.
Well, that's good to hear. I'm glad you think that, because, you're stuck with me. So there you go. So we really want to thank the Tip-Sters, because we got a plethora of new reviews this week. It's a wonderful thing. So it's very feast or famine. Reviews come either hot and heavy, or it'll be a month before someone writes one. So we're grateful. And we have a couple of people that, sold their soul to the devil and went to Apple Podcast under their, great regret. But they did it for us because they're good and kind human beings. So let's see. We got one from Lydia, and she said, binge-worthy. What can I say that hasn't been said by all the other amazing reviews? It's spot on accurate. I love the way the information is given. Love the banter and the opinions. All around well done. We'll be coming back for more. Thank you so much, Lydia. We got a lovely one from Tipster Christina. Excellent longtime fan. 3 years and still in love. Who's still in love after 3 years? Melissa and Mark are
there's a story there somewhere.
She is happily married. Stop it. Melissa and Mark are such beautiful people and so genuine, invested in their stories and the crimes they cover. Melissa wears her heart on her sleeve. How much more beautiful or genuine do you get than that? Please rate, review, and follow this podcast. We need them. And if they go away, there will be a serious void in my life, because I genuinely need these two. So that's very sweet, Tipster Christina. Let's see. Jeff at Work. Incredible Stories is what he titled his. And these are all from Apple Podcasts. Incredible stories told by the incredibly competent team of Melissa and Mark. The hard work and heart that goes into each episode is awesome. Highly recommend and guarantee you will not be disappointed. The beautiful Emily said truth, justice, and more cowbell. I feel like that should be like a t-shirt or something. We should make t-shirts.
Yeah, I like that idea.
I freaking love Melissa. She's sass and class with a little mischief and magic unicorn dust mixed in for good measure. I love the back and forth banter with producer Mark. Melissa takes very serious topics and gives them the respect and diligence they deserve. She is passionate about every case, and the amount of research she does is evident by the details and information. Melissa's passion and dedication has earned her the respect of detectives, law enforcement, and the victims' loved ones. I'm gonna cry. That's such a beautiful thing. You may come for the true crime, but you'll stay because of Melissa. She's a rare, beautiful soul. Also, more cowbell.
These are some great reviews.
They're fantastic. Speaking of that, we got a lovely review from Embalmer JK. Fantastic podcast. I found this podcast when the pandemic started and have been hooked ever since. If you like a well-researched and entertaining angle, Melissa and Mark are must listening. Melissa puts her heart and soul into her work. Mark makes it all come together. That's my favorite part. Mark absolutely makes it all come together.
I don't know about
Keep
that.
them coming. I look forward to each early episode. I'm a Patreon subscriber and proud of it. Thanks.
I interrupt a lot, but
you make it all come together, my darling, and you know that. And then the last one we got, the most recent, which I wrote down because it was sometimes the short and sweet ones. This one is from Tum L. I don't know. It's TUML. Love the show. Very entertaining and well researched. Sometimes that's all you need to say. And I am grateful for all of those. So
I love the fact that we're getting so many now from men and not just women. So
Yeah.
that we're appealing to a
You're
wider
right.
range, a wider audience, which is great.
yeah, well, maybe Jeff at work is like Jeff Arena.
Oh,
I'm kidding. I think it's probably Jeff. Probably not Jeffette or Jeff Arena. Probably a guy's name. But
okay.
you
Probably,
never know.
I'm guessing.
I know. I'm always thinking it's a chick too, unless they have a name that's more gender, easy to understand. But yeah, I don't know. So I will be giving you a very short. I was going to do a longer one, but decided to do a short update on the Will Sarazan case because his nephew Daniel's arraignment starts in a few days, and I will give you a longer update then. I had waited and waited because things were changing. And after a long time of them not changing, things are changing pretty quickly. We were considering a murdertizer or how to do this, but because his arraignment is coming up in, a week, I wanted to just give you the update. The upshot is Will's brother and Daniel's father, Chuck Sarazan, flipped. He was given an immunity deal, which I believe will come in handy, I hope, somehow. But he flipped on his son. He was Daniel's alibi for the last 4 years. And he said Daniel was home when he got home from work at 4:30 in the afternoon. And we know that is just a complete and utter lie.
Yeah, the surveillance
Right.
footage proves that
Daniel
that's a
is
lie.
on, security video from the neighbors backing his SUV into the driveway at 5:06. The back hatch opens. Presumably Will goes in the back hatch. We can't see because it's blocked. And then at 5:12, he leaves the driveway. So we know he wasn't home. And this is, this is big. And I still will credit Detective Hanke for what he did, kicking ass and taking names, and made it happen. I'm just going to say that. I don't care what anyone says. I know what happened. So apparently, Detective Hernandez said, "When did you know it was Daniel's SUV?" And Chuck said, "I knew it immediately the first time I saw it." So Chuck folded and gave up the ghost after 3 years at that time, 4 years now.
Yeah, so he did this back in like February of 2020, right?
Yep.
And they kept it under wraps apparently until the preliminary hearing.
Yep.
Yeah.
But it was probably what they needed to arrest him. That's
Right.
probably what
absolutely.
happened.
Yeah.
Why they needed to arrest him. So, and that worked. So, Daniel had a preliminary hearing that lasted 2.5 days. The Judge Walgren, said there is overwhelming evidence that Will is probably no longer alive and that Daniel had something to do with it. And he is bound over for trial. So now the real work begins, unless, fingers crossed, something happens and a deal is, proffered somehow, because I don't know how it couldn't be, but
right. I think at this point, now that Daniel and his attorney know that not only has Chuck given up the ghost, but he's been given immunity. I mean, that indicates that Chuck is admitting that he is, he's liable for criminal charges. It's, to me, it seems like it's just a no-brainer that they're going to have to seek some sort of plea deal.
I can't imagine that Daniel's attorney would say, "Let's go through with the trial." But you never know. Maybe it's bravado. Maybe, he has a private attorney again. I have no idea what Chuck did. My guess would be Chuck has just, leveraged himself out the butthole to pay for a private attorney for Daniel, because I'm sure he thought it was his only chance, especially if he was going to flip on him. But Daniel had, a court-appointed attorney who was abysmal. I will tell you, I was excited because the guy was, I mean, he was like straight out of Central Casting. He didn't know what was going on. He kept, making objections, and the DA would just stomp right on his face and get them, overturned and overruled or whatever. I mean, it was just like, dude, you are out of your league. Take your pink socks and your pink jacket and get the fuck back to Miami Vice. It was the strangest thing I'd ever seen. He was up against a heavy hitter and he wasn't doing well. So Daniel has a private attorney again. I don't know how it's afforded. And he and Chuck are both represented by two different attorneys at the same firm, which I think is very interesting.
Yeah, it is.
But, if the trial goes forward without any sort of plea before this coming week, it's going to be an interesting shit show. But I don't know how, there'll be a jury selection and there'll be more going on. But I really hope that something happens. If they gave Chuck immunity, I'm praying to God he's willing to play ball and they can get Daniel's attorney to play ball and they will just tell us where Will is.
That's it. That's the one thing that Daniel has in his pocket, is that to cut a deal, is that he can basically say in not so many words, I'll give up where the body is, but you've got to give me a reduced sentence of some sort, life with a possibility of parole or something.
Right.
That's the one card he has to play. And the DA knows it, and I'm going to guess that Linda Searzon would agree to that if she knew where they could find the body.
Yeah, she's not the kind of person that wants revenge. I think she believes Daniel and Chuck will, meet some sort of karma in their next life or when they, pass on. I know she's, very religious. And I think all she wants is her husband back. I think, unfortunately, she wants her husband back whole, and that isn't going to happen. No. And I think it's very difficult for her to accept that. I don't think she still has accepted it. I believe that Will's sister, Andrea, has. She got up and left the courtroom when they played the video of Chuck saying to Detective Hernandez, I knew the second I saw the SUV, it was him. Andrea got up and left, and I thought it was because she was so upset, and it turns out she explained she left because she was hoping to find Chuck in the hallway and kick his ass. And he was not in the hallway. So that's where it is now. There'll be more to come, and it's very interesting details. They had the blood spatter expert on the stand, and there's, information that is very fascinating. That, again, I don't know how any sort of attorney would suggest to proceed to trial.
Oh, right.
I don't get that.
Right. It's got to be the attorney is going to recommend taking a deal. It's really up to Daniel what he wants to do. I mean, any legal counsel worth their salt at this point, knowing what we know, would have to advise taking a deal if it's offered.
I really believe that too, and I know that's what you said immediately, Producer Mark, that you know a lot more about the law than I do, and not so much criminal law, but you do know how these things go. And you were like, oh well, it's over now. It's all over now. And I was like, it is? I was hoping, but I think you're right. I'm hoping you're right, that the next thing that happens is some sort of a plea deal, and that we know where Will is. I think that's all we can hope for at this point, and that Daniel serves some amount of time, and that's where we are. So this case is one I was unfamiliar with, and I've never covered a case from Nebraska, so that was part of the interest. The other part of the interest is, how the fuck is this case not solved? It's extremely reminiscent, even though it happened in 1997, of the Delphi case and of other cases where CCTV or video or audio has captured the killer. I'm still stunned, and I would imagine law enforcement in the area are stunned also. I'm not sure I know of any case that hasn't been solved with this much physical evidence. And there are potential theories as to why this has happened, or why all of this evidence has not produced a closure to this case. So here we go. The beautiful 41-year-old Leah Rowlands is working the early shift at the Amoco gas station and convenience store in Cozad, Nebraska. Now, I'm not familiar with Cozad, but apparently it's on Route 80. Is that correct, Producer Mark?
Interstate 80 runs through east and west through the entire middle of Nebraska.
Okay. And apparently Cozad and North Platte are areas where one would stop, like to fill up.
Okay, North Platte is on the western side. I'm very familiar with North Platte. It's a nice little town, Very good people.
So Cozad is off of the I-80, which apparently runs from San Francisco to New Jersey.
It does. It goes all the way. It pretty much ends right before the George Washington Bridge.
Okay.
To take you into New York. Yep.
So, there are theories that the person who did this could be from anywhere, but I think there's some details that make it troubling for me in many ways. So the beautiful Leah Rowlands is working the morning shift on March 10th of 1997. At 10:23 a.m., a tall, very large-framed man pulls up to the gas pumps in a red Pontiac Grand Am. They estimate it's in 1993. When they first put out the pictures of it, it was between a 92 and a 95, and I think they settled on a red 1993 Pontiac Grand Am. He pulls into the Amoco station, and there are 3 gas stations and convenience stores kind of on corners there. Again, it's apparently a place that if you're going, east or west, which side of the I-80 you're on is where you would get off to fill up your tank. 10:23, he pulls up to the gas tanks. He fills up his tank. At 10:28 a.m., he walks into the convenience store. Now, he's a little bit of a standout in that he's tall, probably 6'2", 6'3", big, probably 200 to 220. He is wearing a hoodie and over top of it a leather jacket. He has on sweatpants that are rolled up to his knees, and he's not wearing shoes. It's March in Nebraska. Now, I assumed it would be snow up to your asshole and covered in ice.
Yeah, it'd still be very cold at the very least.
Well, I checked the weather that day. The high that day was 70.
Oh, that's warm.
Very warm for March in Nebraska.
Yes.
The temperature at 10:23 was 50. Now, still not freezing cold.
No, but if you're used to living in that type of weather, 50 degrees is not really cold.
Right. Now, you bring up a great point, Producer Mark. Was this person used to living in that weather? And it's rhetorical. I'll explain why he may not be. So this large person, average-looking guy, distinctive hair, dark hair, a lot of big, thick hair, kind of spiky, seems confident, not in a hurry, walks into the store, gets a soft drink and a can out of a cooler, waits for a mother and son to leave the store, and at 10:32 he walks up to the register, and there is the sweet Leah Rowlands, who is the first day on her job as the manager of the convenience store, where she had worked a few months after just moving to Cozad to be closer to her boyfriend. They exchange words which are not picked up audibly by the CCTV camera, and it is apparent that he orders her to empty the cash register, which she does willingly. He then orders her to lay down on the floor behind the register, and at 10:33, he pulls out a 9mm semi-automatic pistol, leans over the counter, and shoots Leah 3 times.
Oh, my God.
2 of the bullets entered her arm. 1 pierced her head, killing her instantly.
Oh, man. And this is her first day as the manager.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
He calmly walks out of the convenience store, and he goes and he gets into his red 93 Pontiac Grand Am with California plates. The plates are going to come into play a little later. And killed Leah Rowlands for a canned soft drink, a pack of cigarettes, $150 in cash.
Just like that.
Mm-hmm. There are cameras on the outside of the store, but the back license plate is unfortunately too blurry to read. Now, he has left fingerprints on the gas pump, on the cooler door. He has left footprints all the way from his car into the store. He has faced the camera, and yet all of this has netted nothing.
I can't believe that. So they saw his face is clearly seen.
Well, how do I say this? You know, it's 1997 camera work.
Yeah.
But honestly, I will tell you, I feel like it's much more clear of a picture of this white male than of the bridge guy from the Delphi murder case.
Yeah, and I mean, you said you can see his spiky hair.
Yeah.
Right? You can see the size of him.
Yeah.
You can see his car.
Right. And here are the details that have made this even more aggravating to me. The police were able to track down the mother and the toddler who looked him in the face. And they gave a great description that looked exactly like the guy in the picture, right? They have his face on video. He looks at the camera while drinking his soft drink.
Is this before or after he shoots Leah?
It was before. They saw him before. They were in the store.
I see.
He walked in, waited for them to leave, and then killed her.
Right, but he looked at the camera as he's drinking his soft drink.
Yeah. Yeah, before. He looks at the camera before. He takes a sip of the soft drink, looks straight up at the camera.
This is flabbergasting. I don't get it at all.
They used the entire state of Nebraska's facial recognition software. They put the prints in the system. They took the footage of his California license plate. You can't read the numbers. None of these things have panned out. Every lead turned out to be a dead end.
So this guy obviously has no prior record of any kind because they got his fingerprints. But, I mean, that's frustrating, but you see his car, and he's distinctive looking. And there's nobody who can say, oh, yeah, that's Joe, or whatever. I mean, it's unbelievable. How can that be?
Well, you're making many great points, Producer Mark, and there may be a few reasons why. Was this a crime of opportunity? Would a Nebraska native who maybe was mentally ill or had a drug issue needed cash? I guess in 1997 you could fill up your tank 24 years ago and not pay for it beforehand and then go into the store and pay.
Yeah, that's true. It was true in the middle of the country where you lived in Kentucky. Yeah, that you could pump before you pay up to a certain year. It wasn't that uncommon. And in that year was 97, you said?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm sure in Nebraska you could pump and then pay.
So the fact that he's got his sweatpants rolled up to his knees as if maybe he would be wading through something, or, you know, maybe he stepped in something and he's not wearing shoes. Does that mean he is from Nebraska? Does that mean he's from somewhere else where maybe you dress like that more casually?
Like California.
Or
maybe.
Yeah. Or perhaps we're going to get into maybe the U.S. Virgin Islands, which we'll understand in a moment. Was it just someone who has a 9mm weapon, which is, I wouldn't say it's classically a hitman's gun, but, you know, law enforcement, you know, does the job. If you're going to rob a store and someone has complied completely, given you all the money and laid down behind the register, do you need to kill them? Most robbers want the money and to get the fuck out with as little trouble as possible, especially one that has left fingerprints, footprints, ballistics, and facial, you know, pictures of their face, their car.
Yeah.
What maybe would make someone not worry about that?
Well, the only thing I can think of is that when they were having words, that he said something to her that would identify him. That's the only thing I can figure. I'm
not sure that there was enough time, because it was 10:32 when he walked up and 10:33 when he shot her. I don't know that he could have said anything that would have identified him. I don't know that she knew him from prior exchanges at the store.
Oh, well, there's that too.
I can tell you her family members, including her brother, who's sort of the one shouting the loudest about his sister's murder, is extremely extremely convinced that it was her ex-husband who'd hired a hitman.
Oh, okay.
Now, I will tell you there's a lot of dissension in that opinion. There are people who think it was someone driving through the I-80, which is a very well-traveled route. It was a crime of opportunity. There are people that think it was someone who was mentally ill or a drug addict who needed money. There are people who think it was a spree killer. I feel like if some of those things were true, that we would know more.
Sure. It can't be a spree killer because there were no similar...
Well, there were robberies of convenience stores along the I-80 in the time frame, but none of them resulted in murder. I feel like if you leave ballistics, you're either going to get rid of the gun or you're going to take your gun and go somewhere else. You know, the Virgin Islands is part of the U.S. I don't know if they, connect with law enforcement and compare ballistics, but maybe.
Well, they could. I mean, the FBI has jurisdiction there. I mean,
absolutely.
So,
a drug addict who has issues or mental illness, do they shoot one person, one time in an almost professional, clinical kind of way and then never do it again?
Right.
I mean, these are all questions I'm asking because we don't know. 24 years later, we still don't know. And, Leah has family who loves her. She had 2 sons with her ex-husband, and she and her ex-husband owned a restaurant together in the U.S. Virgin Islands.
Okay.
And there was a very acrimonious divorce. He believes that she had taken a lot of his money and that she got custody of the 2 boys, and he was very upset about that.
So this is her brother that thinks this.
Her brother thinks that her husband, and her husband, it's pretty clear that her husband was very upset with her. It was a very ugly divorce.
Right. And is he still in the Virgin Islands?
Well, her husband died in early 2015.
Oh, that's not helpful.
No. He has never been officially named as a suspect. Again, the fingerprints, the ballistics, all of the CCTV footage, it's all in the file, and the case is still open. This is troubling because this person was sloppy and left the most amount of evidence I've ever seen in my life, and yet did not appear to be worried about it. Was he not worried about it because he knew he would not ever do it again? Was he not worried about it because he knew none of his information was in CODIS? Was he not worried about it because he's, if he's a hitman, he's pretty sloppy? But maybe if you're a hitman, you're that kind of cocky person who, doesn't worry about being caught because...
Right. And maybe he, who knows, maybe his outfit, the way he appears, maybe he was wearing something to make him appear bigger than he is, or...
Now, thank you for saying that, Producer Mark, because what you're saying lends itself to some other theories. That if this person could or would have been known to Leah, that he could have changed his appearance before he got there. There are people that believe the way he was dressed was to gather attention. There's a lot of businesses where you walk in, it's like no shirt, no shoes, no service. It's March in Nebraska and he's wearing no shoes. And he goes and gets a drink and starts drinking it, which people do. You don't have to wait till you pay for it. A lot of people, I see people in the grocery store eat half the shit before they buy it.
Right.
Or, mean, there was an old Irma Bombeck story where, she went to the grocery store with her kids and one of them kept eating grapes. And she's like, he weighs 47 pounds, put him on your scale. Anything over that, I'll pay for. Not that you should be eating produce in the store, but you know what I mean. I mean, people, he confidently, coolly opens his drink, takes a drink, grabs.
It's the confidence that
It is.
that indicates to me that this is professional. He's a professional, and for whatever reason, it does seem like he was trying to gain attention. That's a really good point.
Now, there are people that say, if you're leaving fingerprints and bullets and your face is on camera, do you care about not leaving maybe distinctive shoe prints? You know, I mean, let's say he's wearing, those ugly ass Bruno Magli shoes that O.J. Simpson wore that swore he didn't own. Let's say he's wearing Bruno Magli shoes, with a distinctive pattern on them, right? And I don't want to leave any more evidence than I already have, so I'm going to not wear my shoes. Well, there's cameras. You have picked up a gas pump with your hand. You're not wearing gloves. I will tell you that footprints in 1997 may have been taken in different cases, but I don't know how important they are. I think shoe prints are, usually considered more telling than footprints. Footprints are probably very close to fingerprints in that, you could have a very distinctive footprint, but I don't know, how how much importance was placed on this. I can also tell you that in a case we have covered on this podcast, there are footprints that are extremely important. And no, I won't tell you what case, but I can tell you there are footprints and handprints in a case, and they are important. So if a detective ever says, take your shoes and socks off, they want to look at you for something. And apparently they're more important than I can even imagine. So they have his footprints, his fingerprints, his face, his height. What producer Mark said, maybe the clothing was to camouflage something. I don't think so. You can see he doesn't have like scrawny bird legs and a big body. He's a big man. He's got muscly legs and a hoodie with a leather jacket over it. Not exactly winter wear for Nebraska, but maybe you're not used to the weather. Maybe that's what you thought you should wear.
Yeah, I think it's just from what I've heard so far, it sounds like he is not from Nebraska. Now, when I think about everything,
right?
I think that the car probably was from California, or it could be that the California license plates were stolen and put on the car. But it does sound like he was not from that part of, or probably not from Nebraska at all.
I really tend to agree with you, and there is one piece of information that came in that disputes that, which we'll get to, but I really tend to agree with you, and I don't want to just buy into Roy Rowlands' theory that my brother-in-law killed my sister. However, I just, maybe this is just all conjecture, which of course is what all we have now, unless anyone out there knows what's happening or what happened. But Leah is trying to rebuild her life. How much money could she have taken from her ex-husband in his mind if she's working at a convenience store and a gas station in Cozad, Nebraska?
Precisely.
I mean, is that somebody who's living it up? She's, she worked hard for a few months and was promoted to manager because she's a divorcee who's trying to put her life together and raise her two sons. I mean, everyone said how personable and kind and good-natured she was. She's known for being very generous. And her husband apparently treated her so badly. Now, this is just a piece of information for you to keep in your mind. You don't have to hold on to it, but it is pretty interesting. She had written a 16-page letter to her sons explaining, your father and I, they were confused as to why there was a divorce. Your father and I had some issues. I was treated really badly. I needed to get away for myself. I don't believe he would ever hurt you, but I don't know. He is a very difficult, violent, angry man. And I am doing this to start a life and make a better life for us. Now, the reason she moved to Cozad is that she had a new boyfriend and things were turning around in her life. I think it's very interesting that her boyfriend is now a Nebraska police officer. I don't know if he joined the police department. He wasn't a police officer when they were together.
Oh, that is interesting.
I think it's very interesting. So it was apparently a very bad thing when she and her ex-husband broke up. And again, he passed away in 2015 and did not leave a dying declaration of any kind. But her brother is firmly convinced that her ex-husband paid a hitman to come from St. Thomas, who in his mind, now this may be a reach, he calls them clam diggers. He's like, who wears clam diggers in March in Nebraska? Who rolls up their pants? Somebody who's used to, living on the beach. Who is barefoot?
All good points.
They are. I mean, they are, but it's not enough. It's unfortunately not enough. All that we have is still not enough. I mean, I don't even know what to say here. There are 6 agencies that worked on this case. 6 different agencies, including the FBI. And I will explain that it has been profiled on America's Most Wanted 3 times. They, enhanced the video. They sent the video to NASA. Again, they used facial recognition software from the DMV to try and figure out who this person could be. And nothing. I mean, is this just like a career criminal who goes around, murdering people because he can? Is it someone who is paid? Is it, he's so competent? Is he competent because he's mentally ill or doesn't care?
That's an interesting
I mean,
theory.
It's unfortunate the number of theories about this case, but I can tell you it has puzzled detectives, obviously, for years. I mean, Leah's ex-husband, Barry Rokamp, they owned this successful restaurant, and he was very wealthy. And when she left him, she's like, I want alimony because I want custody of the boys. And he was extremely against that, and they fought and fought. And Leah wanted to explain to the boys, this is why I had to leave in the dramatic way I did, and this is why I made the decisions I did. Things were bad. I'm afraid. I didn't want his violent temper to spill over onto you. And it's just, I know. It's heartbreaking, and especially now that he's gone. So I will tell you there's great information on this case. The Lincoln Journal-Star from Lincoln, Nebraska, the Columbus Telegram from Columbus, Nebraska, the Fremont Tribune, the Beatrice Daily Sun, which sounds like a small publication but does really great work. So this is from February of 2003, so 6 years after the murder, on America's Most Wanted. They get a tip. A man from Omaha, who is still unidentified, calls on America's Most Wanted. Now, one of the things I love about that show is that they actually have people manning phones. And I always thought it was sort of cheesy, like a telethon,
Right. I thought it was fake.
It's not. I was stunned. I think this may be the first time that I was convinced that detectives from Nebraska, I don't know where they film America's Most Wanted. It may have been New York. I don't know, but they were there. There were, I know, the detectives from Nebraska were manning the phones and answered the phone when someone called and said, a friend told me that he had killed a woman who was a clerk at a convenience store, and he showed me the gun, and it was a 9mm. There was a reenactment on America's Most Wanted, and he said, I now believe that he was telling the truth, and it's not, he wasn't lying to me. And he gave them the first name, which they say they're not even sure it's correct, but they have a first name. They had a first name, and that he was living in North Omaha at the time of the slaying. So
wow.
I know that goes against it being a hired hitman from the U.S. Virgin Islands, unless her husband found someone from North Omaha to pay, although there really isn't a connection. Now, this was 2003, and here we are in 2021, and maybe that just didn't go anywhere.
Yeah, we don't know what happened. We don't know if they tracked down the guy or anything.
I don't know. I don't know if they tracked down the guy and found him. I don't know if it just never panned out, if they talked to him and it was nothing. I don't know. But I can tell you, America's Most Wanted, God bless them. God bless them for getting that tip. I mean, I'm trying to remember, during its run, I think there were something like 200 cases.
Oh yeah, they were very successful.
That were solved because they, I think maybe the reenactments, maybe the pictures, I don't know. The one I can think of that is always going to have a place in my heart is John List.
Yep.
Just also, I mean, that's just got 85 layers to make it amazing. Like, Frank Bender making that bust of John List and picking out the glasses he knew he would have, 20 years later because he was such a person of habit. And I mean, that's
a great, the way that case was solved is awesome.
Yeah. So, her boyfriend, Bob, is like, I don't know why this would have happened. She was such a special human being. She was so happy and friendly. Why would anyone want to hurt her? So is it someone who just happened by in weird attire? Is it someone who, wanted a tank of gas and $150 for his next hit? Is it, someone who was paid? Is it someone who, he's not wearing shoes, so he's hoping to spur a confrontation and then a reason to kill her? I mean, I don't even think she would have noticed or cared. And I don't think, I thought your question was a good one, Producer Mark. Did he say something that we don't know that caused him to think she's going to be able to recognize me? I need to kill her?
Maybe.
I mean, I don't know who leaves all of this information. Who leaves, everything.
It's somebody who's absolutely confident they're not going to get him.
But are they confident because they are a paid killer who does this and don't give a shit? Are they confident because they're mentally ill and they don't give a shit?
Right.
I mean, who does this? I mean, and I can tell you that these detectives have done everything. I mean, they've done so many amazing things. They constantly run the fingerprints and ballistics through their databases. In 2010, they came out, the Nebraska State Patrol came out with decks of cards with pictures of, either victims or perpetrators or both. In 1997, they tried putting up that surveillance video, before YouTube on a local station's internet. And this is how, in 1997, it's like detectives using the internet.
Right. And it was mostly dial-up internet then too. Really hard to play the video.
Right. And they put, the surveillance footage. They put up, pictures of the car and figured out it was California plates. They used the internet to the best of their ability. There was, a $5,000 reward put up by her brother Roy, and there was a $12,000 reward put up by Amico, the Amico Merchants Society or whatever so there was $17,000 at one point for information on this. I don't know that there's still a reward, but I know there's still a number you can call if you know anything about this. I mean, they really have tried. I mean, I really do think they've tried. They even brought up in, a vote whether it's important to have 2 license plates on a car, a front and a back, because of this case.
Wait a minute. I just want to make sure I understand. There is no front license plate on the car?
No.
That means that's important. And that is because in California, all cars have front and back license plates. This indicates that that is not a car from California. Somebody got whoever did this got one California plate and put it on the back. And that's important. This has always been true in California. You've always been required to have front and back plates. And so I think that it was not the license plate that came with the car.
Right. Well, I can tell you they've checked that out also, and they, assumed that it was stolen. They thought perhaps he was homeless. What sort of a homeless person, if you're barefoot, I got it. He looked a little too clean to be homeless, a little too, well-dressed, not disheveled. Just because he wasn't wearing shoes, I don't think means he's homeless. Was the car stolen? I think they probably tried to track down every 1993 red Grand Am in the state and maybe in California. I think you're probably right, because the plates at one point were identified as 2 different other states.
Mm-hmm.
And finally, they said it was California plates, but the numbers are too blurry to read.
Right. Well, there's all kinds of ways this could have happened. Let's say that he is from the Virgin Islands, and he figured, that he's somebody that could just easily blend back into the population on the Virgin Islands. Let's say that it's a U.S. territory, so I don't think you need a passport.
Right.
You just you get on a plane, you fly, let's say, to Denver. You go to the Denver airport, okay? You go into the parking lot at the Denver airport and find a car with a California plate. You take the plate. You go and rent a car at the airport. And then in Colorado, you go somewhere, take off whatever plates are on it, put the California plate on, go do this hit, drive back to Denver, take the California plate off, toss it, and put the right plates back on, fly back to the Virgin Islands. I mean, that's one way you could do it. I could see that happening.
Are you a murderer? I mean, that's pretty good.
I'm just thinking how would a professional hitman do this?
Right. I can tell you, I'm sure there are pieces of information they have kept to themselves because we don't know everything. But I can also tell you they are still pleading for help. They're still, look, if you know anything, and they actually say, we believe somebody out there recognizes him, but they're afraid to turn him in. Are they afraid to turn him in because he would come and kill them because he's mentally ill, or because he would come and kill them because he is a hitman? Lots of leads have come in over the years. Lots of leads. And this case is now 24 years old. And she has 2 sons who have gone on with their lives. They don't have their mother, who was trying to make a better life for them. And they still get a call every now and then from the FBI saying, we're working on this, we're running down this lead. But, people don't live forever like their father. People don't live forever like potentially someone who knows. I don't know that the man who said he shot a clerk while living in North Omaha turned out to be someone who could have been viable or not. But whatever it wasn't enough. So I think Leah Rowlands deserves help. And I think her sons deserve justice of some sort. And I think if you know anything about what happened March 10th of 1997 at the Amoco in Cozad, Nebraska, I hope that you'll call the Dawson County Sheriff's Office at 308-324-3011. And more cowbell.
If you'd like to support this podcast, go to patreon.com/Just the Tipsters.